Good morning. It's actually Tuesday morning, July 14th, and I am, as I have often done, I would like to just do a quick review of week two and introduce you to week three and let you know what's coming up. Thank you again for everybody's participation in week two. It's kind of an interesting discussion that we've had where we look at a historical era, not so much an event, and look at two primarily organizational structures, not so much behaviors, but structures, and how were decisions, actions, processes expected to happen within those structures. And we just asked some fairly classical questions in there. And I was really very interested in people's responses. As I said, I generally, given circumstances, I am pretty much the only person in the room who's lived through the entire Cold War era and has some feel for what it was like in reality. And it was a very interesting time. And I think that's what makes this question so appropriate. Also, too, one other thing that makes it, I think, very appropriate is that we do frequently here at Post have so many military students who are either veterans or active duty who have some interesting perspectives on organizations and how organizations function and the structures of organizations. So the things I'd like you to take away from this are a couple, not too deeply, but keep them in the background. Number one, remember we were looking at structures, okay? And that is what's really important. How are the basic structures of an organization framed? And we'll be moving forward into looking at what dictates those structures. How do they happen? Do they happen because of culture? Are they culturally dictated? Are they event dictated? Are they planned? Are they evolutionary? All these terminologies will come up in the coming weeks. The other thing I noticed too is we seem to engage in what is primarily a very natural practices. I noticed one little trend going on. We tend to focus on the what happens and not how. Okay, and in this case, when looking at organizational design and theory, I want you to keep in mind we're really looking at how things happen, not necessarily what happens and what are the results. So these are some guiding factors as we go forward, because in week three now we're going to come up into an extension of week two, and you'll find this course is a series of extensions. Culture, all right? Culture is really important. Culture is really out there in the news a lot today when we talk about the culture of society. But we'll find out that just about all organizations, from an overall society right down to your class, your family, your groups you belong to in your neighborhood, groups you belong to in your profession. How do those groups function? Well, they each have a culture, okay? And culture is something you don't dictate. I mean, I come from a sports background in many ways, and one of the things I always laugh at when I see, especially on the major league level, when a team hires a new coach, one of the first things they come in and they say, "I'm going to change the culture around here." To me, nothing could be more laughable. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years, and if it takes a couple of years, that's rapid. Okay, so I mean, culture is a really driving force. This is what I'd like you to look at. And we're going to look at these things starting very much by studying an organization that is still around, IDEO. We're going to ask a lot of questions about them. You're going to see a lot of the organic organizational structure that we just talked about a lot become apparent here, and you're going to have to really kind of relate the two as you kind of keep going and work things together. Like I said, remember, it's a progression. The other thing, too, I want to do is, if you haven't done so, please go back and take a look at that midweek video I put up last week with some what I'm calling how-to things on discussions and papers. I have, this is Tuesday morning, I'm a little bit behind schedule. I will try to make sure I get the discussions done today and the papers tomorrow as on schedule. But again, it might not be till Thursday morning till all the papers are done. But as I've explained previously, I will go through the discussions first because many of you have started discussion already for this week, and I want you to be able to use the feedback that you get. Make sure you go back to, if I ask you to in particular, to look at the rubric because that will let you know where the scores came from and how we're looking at things. Okay, so far I am pleased with what's going on. The discussions are, remember, where most of the learning I think is going to take place. Please make sure you're watching all the videos that are in the course, going through the events of the reading, when I say events. Keep events, by the way, of the world in mind. This is an option you may have later in the course that I want to talk about, and I'll talk about it when it's more appropriate and more timely. So, again, thank you very much. Let's keep going the way we've been doing. Okay? Thank you very much again.